Hey everybody, welcome to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Mike Catalana along with Dan Fetes. And we know whenever you clicked on this to watch and to listen, we know you're angry. You were angry watching that game, and a reason to be angry. We were in the media room afterward, Dan. Let's set the tone here a little bit. Let's start with Sean McDermott. That's an angry coach right now.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of reasons to be. I think Sean McDermott has built a reputation and wants to be known as a coach that is physical, tough-nosed, old school still kind of a coach. That's not what this team is.
No, he was asked about that too. And very specifically, he was asked about the offense and about Brian Daboll and doing the job. There's a crack there somewhere.
Okay. Now, full disclosure, I respect, trust, and love Brian Daboll more than some of my relatives. So I think we need to start there. So it's going to be hard. But this comes down to the point of I don't know where the sense is of trust in Brian Daboll from Sean McDermott, from his answer, Mike, because he really didn't. He kind of started throwing stats out.
He did, but he was asked specifically about is Brian Daboll doing the job, and he dismissed mentioning Brian Daboll. And look, that was not a normal Sean McDermott answer. Normally he would say, Brian, like everybody else, wants to do it or wants to do a better job and whatever it is. He dismissed his coordinator and then did stats about we had the ball at the 40, we had good field position, and didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, and at what point does, again, I know Brian Daboll is the easy scapegoat here. We were talking about it just before we came on and started recording this. Stephon Diggs gets his hands on the ball in the end zone. You have the red zone where you have penalties coming back.
Yeah.
Mitch Morris said it best. It's never a good time to shoot yourself in the foot, but we seem to find the absolute worst times to shoot themselves in the foot.
But I think McDermott's angry with Daboll about the way they try to play football. And I look at it and think to myself, this team isn't built to play the way you want to play.
And that's all first half I was screaming to throw the ball. Look, I was on the field. I understand what the conditions were. The conditions were way worse when we were doing live shots before the game. It was windy. Yes, there were gusts. It wasn't that bad. And guess what? Their best plays on offense in the first half were passes. So do what you were built to do. Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Dawson Knox, they didn't come here to run block. This is a team that wants to be physical, that isn't built to be physical. Do you know why the New England Patriots ran the ball 43 times and for 250 yards? Because that's how they were built as a roster. That's how they were constructed. That's their identity. Mike, you've been talking about it over and over again, that this team doesn't have an identity. They have an identity crisis. They want to be a physical team, but they don't have any of the DNA or the makeup to be one.
Yeah, and McDermott was even asked about changing that. And he said that was his message since training camp. Well, if it hasn't gotten through to week 13, either it's not getting the message through or you just don't have the players to do it. And I would say they don't have the players to do it.
No, they don't. Look, this is a team that has gotten pushed around the line of scrimmage. I don't care if it was Barry Sanders playing out in this field. The offensive line gets no push. They're not built to run on first down or second down or third down. This was a team that was built to spread defenses out, give Josh Allen the ball, to put the ball in the playmaker's hands. It wasn't meant for Devin Singletary to get 20 touches. That is not what this team was built to do. Brian Daboll or not, that is not what this team was constructed to be.
Yeah, Sean McDermott is also asked about the Patriots and asked specifically about the factor of Bill Belichick on the other side and Belichick, and if that impacts the way, I believe it was sort of like the way you coach. He was having none of that either.
He said, let's just get one thing straight. Don't give Bill Belichick more credit than he deserves in this one. He goes, the fact that the Bills had better field position, they had better they lost the turnover battle, but besides
they were in the red zone four times. Yeah.
All of those things, he goes, it comes down to executing, and it comes down to players making plays. Don't give Bill Belichick more credit than he is. That was his point.
Yeah, he was making a point there. Look, everybody respects Bill Belichick. He's got the greatest resume, and maybe he's the greatest coach of all time. But Sean McDermott is competing with him. And, I think it was Rex Ryan who once said, we're not going to kiss his ring when we come to play. Well, you got to sort of coach that way against Bill Belichick. Yeah. Look, he did a good job today. Mac Jones handed the ball off 43 times, and the Bills couldn't stop it.
Matt Judon had a quote after the game in the Patriots locker room where he said, give a lot of credit to the Patriots offense. Everybody deserves a ton of credit, except for Mac Jones. He didn't do anything today.
Yeah. And then he laughed because he knew it. His quarterback handed the ball off the whole time, and that was the thing. The Bills couldn't stop it. And look, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, in the locker room or in the media room afterward, Jerry Sullivan, former columnist at the Buffalo News, asked the question, are you guys embarrassed when a team can do that to you.
It was the first time in 40 years that a team had that few pass attempts and won a game and was asked, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, is that embarrassing?
They weren't happy with the question, and they haven't been happy with a lot of the questions. Not surprisingly, it's after the losses. And you know why it seems like the same questions all the time?
Because it's the same script after every loss.
It has been. You guys know it. They've had 5 losses. They've gotten pushed around physically in every one of those games at one point or another during the game, and they failed in the red zone in all of those games. It is a pattern. This is who this team is after 12 games. There are a lot of issues that didn't exist in 2020 that exist in 2021. Is the season over? No, but if you're going to change things, it's hard to change after 12 games. I think you go back to who you should be as opposed to who you want to be.
I keep going back to this, and I've said it so many times. The Bills, I've been saying it for the last year and a half, it's just that they are a team that is going to go as far as Josh Allen takes them. Josh played fine today. Did some receivers and Dawson Knox drop some passes? Sure. But this team is going to go. 10 points is not enough to win any game. And I think that's why, and that is why Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer were so upset at the question from Jerry Sullivan, because he goes, we gave up 14 points. Like, we're not embarrassed.
Yeah, but
to that respect.
Right, but they're holding on to the numbers. You know, it's like Sean McDermott said, well, we gave up that long run. Yeah, the 64-yard run gave the Patriots the lead, and they never gave up the lead the entire game. 8-7 was as close as you got. Those stats can work against you. Yes, they ran the ball 45 times for all those yards, but they were able to keep the ball and keep your offense off the field. It wasn't quite Super Bowl 25, which is what Bill Belichick did to the old Bills, but it did have a feel of, we're not going to let your offense play that much, and when they are, we think we can stop you.
And Sean McDermott said at the game, like, their game plan didn't surprise them. He said again, it didn't surprise us because we knew that's what they were going to do.
That should alarm you.
Exactly.
Right.
And this was a game where I went into this going, this was a big boy game. You had to put on your big boy pants because they pretty much said we're going to come out and punch you in the mouth. And once again, this is a Bills team that has struggled to come from behind, struggled to make a play. And Mike, you asked Sean McDermott if he was concerned by that. This is who they are.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, this is a real concern. And when you get there, and again, we're walking up here to go record this, and this is 12:30 whenever you're listening to this. They still had a chance to win the game.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to turn this into roses here, but this was almost nearly an identical game of Jacksonville, where they lost to the Jags, and you're going, there's no way they're going to lose this game. They've just got to make a play, and they didn't. And guess what? Good teams, great teams, championship caliber teams make plays when the game comes down to it. And the Bills team has not done that at all this year.
Can I make my weekly after a loss comparison to the 1989 Bills? Yep. That was the team. In fact, saw Darryl Talley today. Got a chance to say hi to him. That was the team coming off an AFC championship game that was a bickering Bills team. That was a team that had internal problems. But they also thought they were better than they were. They were 7-4 late, or 8-4 late in the year, lost 3 in a row, and had to survive against the Jets to make the playoffs. Got beat by the Browns in the first game of the playoffs. Now, the bright side to that story is the next year they started a run of 4 straight Super Bowls. But that year was a struggle all the way through. And here we are again.
Much like this,
in 2021, where everything has been a struggle. It has been a problem. And they're going to have to figure out some of these things. Mitch Morris, at least, Mitch is a guy that admitted this isn't just another game. This was Bill Belichick and the Patriots coming in here and playing a Navy offense, running the ball on every play and still beating you in your home when you needed the game. That is embarrassing, and it should be embarrassing to both to the offense and the defense, because if the Bills' offense did anything in this game, they would have made Mac Jones actually have to throw the ball.
And it goes back to the same script of why I feel like the players get so annoyed with some of our questions we ask them. Again, Mike, they get in the red zone, it's a penalty, it's a fumble, it's a turnover, it's one thing after another, it's missed opportunities. And we keep asking for why this is happening, and there never really is one. Yeah. And this hamster wheel keeps turning, and the Bills win a game, and then they lose a game, and then they win, and we lather, rinse, and repeat, and we're sitting here wondering, who are these Bills trying to be? Because this team is not a contender of any kind.
No.
And Can we say soft again? Because this was a chance where after the Colts game, they said that wasn't us and that we're a tougher team than that. And they weren't again tonight.
By the way, I always want people to know this. When we refer to an NFL team as soft, we know they're a lot tougher than Dan and I, okay? We're not sitting here saying these aren't tough NFL players. We are comparing them to other NFL teams. That's what we're talking about. This Bills team is not a physical team. Sean McDermott would tell you they're not a physical team. He's used the phrase, they've gotten pushed around. It has been a consistent theme. And not only is it a theme, if they make the playoffs and they don't get the right matchup, and I mean, honestly, they might want the Chiefs or the Chargers, because every other team will physically beat them up. Basically, the teams that we're seeing now, New England and Tennessee, even if they get healthier. And, you know, these are teams, Baltimore, that can play that type of game. The Bills don't play that game. I will say it's incredibly disappointing to see this team right now.
And one last thing about this offense that they always talk about balance, and they talk about, you know, every game, every week it's different, and that they want to, you know, if we have to run the ball 50 times or pass the ball, they can't run the ball 50 times. So that option of an offensive game plan is out the window. So it's frustrating when I think the Bills do have a best combination in the NFL with Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders and Josh Allen and those weapons. It's a Mike Tyson right hook. And if you're going up against a boxer that maybe can stop a right hook, do you then just start throwing left-handed jabs? No, you see if they can handle it.
Yeah.
And I look at this team, and I saw a first half that I thought they just played scared and timid, and it's just been frustrating to see this team where, again, it's the same roster for the most part, but just so much softer than what they were last year.
Yeah, it was easy last year. It's difficult, and let me tell you something. We're heading down to Tampa to see them play. That's going to be a tough one, and they could very well at that point be 7-6 and out of the playoff race. Can they step up and beat Tampa? Sure, they've come back from losses before, but this team needs to get a little angry. I think they should follow the lead of their coach a little bit, get a little more angry.
And the blueprint is out. It is run, run, run. And guess what? Tampa Bay's got a pretty good offensive line and a pretty big back in Leonard Fournette, and they've seen what the Colts did, and they just saw what the Patriots did.
Yeah. They didn't miss Trey White in this game. They're going to miss him next week in Tampa. We'll see what happens, and we'll have complete coverage all week long. Make sure you keep it here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. For Dan Fetes, I'm Mike Catalana. Thanks for watching.